Hi, my name's Daniel today, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm here to read the Daily Reflections book for July 6, 2024. It's called Identifying Fear. The chief activator of our defects has been self-centered fear. That's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book on page 76. When I feel uncomfortable, irritated, or depressed, I look for fear. This evil and corroding thread is the root of my distress. Fear of failure, fear of others' opinions, fear of harm, and many other fears. I have found a higher power who does not want me to live in fear, and as a result, the experience of AA in my life is freedom and joy. I am no longer willing to live with the multitude of character defects that characterized my life when I was drinking. Step 7 is my vehicle to freedom from those defects. I pray for help in identifying the fear underneath the defect, and then I ask God to relieve me of that fear. This method works for me without fail and is one of the great miracles of my life in Alcoholics Anonymous. Period. The end of the reading. So today's reading, July 6th, Identifying Fear, has got the ellipsis, I guess it's called, the 3 dots after it, because it's continued in July 7th reading with and letting go of it. So identifying fear and letting go of it. And since it's July, that's the 7th month, and I believe it corresponds with the 7th step, which steps 6 and 7 kind of go along from the, I don't know if you're going to be able to read this, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step 6, which corresponds to the month of June. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. So this person in the reading today said, I'm no longer willing to live with the multitude of character defects that characterized my life while I was drinking. Step 7 is my vehicle to freedom from these defects. I pray for help in identifying the fear underneath the defect, and then I ask God to relieve me of that fear. Or like it says in step 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. What does that have to do with anything, you might ask? Well, we're looking at the Daily Reflections book here today. I'm going to try and read this again every day on YouTube and offer some comments. That might be biting off more than I can chew. I seem to be awful busy in the summertime, and I don't always have something enlightening to say. But let's see. I just need a little scent, just a bone to chew on here. When I feel uncomfortable, irritated, or depressed, I look for fear, this evil and corroding thread. That's a quotation from the big book here. Big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which this is a somewhat more portable version than a hardcover big book. I'll paraphrase. This corroding thread, our lives are shot through with it as a practicing, drinking, drunken alcoholic with fear. And this person lists a few of them. Fear of failure, fear of others' opinions, fear of harm, and many other fears. I heard somebody say a long time ago at an AA meeting that fear is an acronym for false expectations appearing real. Okay, so when I was in my drinking mode of a drunken alcoholic or practicing alcoholic, I was very prone to, well, fear, and where that came from was having very little patience, having a conscience that was guilty or somehow steeped in shame for various reasons. I'm hoping I'm going to get this all wrapped together in something. And so the fear that I lived in daily, well, there's a lot of things. Here's an easy one. The fear of losing my source of income, because then I would no longer be able to afford to buy alcohol. Okay, so you can simplify that, or we can, or I will. I didn't want to run out of booze, because if I ran out of booze, all the demons would come back full strength, telling me all kinds of lies, and it was really uncomfortable. So I think a lot of the anxiety, fear stuff was from knowing I was addicted to alcohol and I couldn't stop, and I just kept consuming alcohol, and the problem just got worse and worse and worse, or harder to correct and less effective. Because I imagine there was a point, I remember when I started drinking, I drank so much without, just being a complete newbie to this whole situation of alcohol. It didn't take much to get me drunk, and then just a little bit more and I'd be throwing up. And for some reason I persisted. It's like I experimented over and over and over. And gradually I built up a tolerance to the stuff, and I think I worked at it persistently like that because I liked the short-lived bit of drunkenness that I got early on before becoming sick. Okay, and so then it got to be where I could drink more and get more drunk without throwing up, and that seemed like right on to me. It's just this shuts up what I thought I had. The few demons I thought I had back then, I couldn't hear them any longer. I'd be drunk and happy, I guess, or content, or at least sated, somehow not so uneasy when I was under the influence of alcohol. So then what happened? I did it again and again and again, and it became a daily habit, and that went on for about 23 years, I think. And it somewhere in there, it didn't work like that any longer. I would drink just to feel normal, and normal feeling to me was not throwing up or craving a drink. That's all normal meant to me. I still had a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and blah, blah, blah. Having a drink would put that stuff in the far background. So a lot of the fear and the shame feelings we're having to admit. Let's talk about these couple of steps, step 1, 2, and 3. That step 1 says, we admitted, I don't want to get this wrong. I've been sober 18 years, I know these steps, but I still look them up. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. In step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. So that was a tough one, the step one, to admit I was powerless over anything, number one, because my ego, your ego, everybody's ego wants to be a winner and on top and know best. And I was very much a fan of my ego and wanted to treat it well. So it kept me in denial a very long time that I'm powerless over something, especially something as innocuous or innocent seeming as alcohol or some beverage. I didn't just, scream out dominance or something like that. Well, my life became unmanageable because I was too intoxicated maybe to run it any more efficiently. So things started stacking up and I just kept drinking, and problems when you leave them alone, mostly, this isn't, I can't say it's for every single problem, but generally if you have a problem, ignoring it won't make it go away. It will somehow get worse or become more difficult to solve the more we try and ignore our problems. So I was in denial because of my ego that I was powerless over alcohol. My life became unmanageable. That was clear to me. There was no dispute on my part about that situation. Admitting that to myself and other people, like treatment counselors and a sponsor within AA or a regular physician, that's a different case. Admitting, actually kind of what it is in one way is admitting defeat, and I didn't like that. I came from the military. I didn't believe in failure, in giving up, or I just didn't think it was possible for myself to fail, I guess. Anyhow, let's leave that alone for a second. Step two, came to believe that a power could restore my sanity. So it was crazy to think that I could keep drinking and things would get better, and it was just some kind of fluke or whatever, that my life was falling apart. I kept, when I say my ego kept telling me that this isn't a big deal yet. You'll know when it's a problem. You don't need to quit. You can quit tomorrow, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And I liked hearing that. You don't have to quit now. You can quit later, some other day. It'll be too hard to quit today, say. So that's crazy talk. That's crazy thinking. It's just not helpful when your life has become unmanageable to keep doing what you were doing, which in my case was consuming way too much alcohol every time I touched this stuff, basically. And then step three, made a decision to, let's read it from the book. Step three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And I'm going to give you a whole bunch of wiggle room here about God as you understand Him. I think the point here is that if something so simple as like a beverage can rule me, dominate over me, tell me what to do and think, then just about anything else would have more power than that substance. Not sure if that's making sense. I just became a victim to the alcohol's wants and needs so easily that when I made a decision to turn my life and will over to the care of, say, insert word, anything other than alcohol here, as I understood it, I forget what I'm saying here, that if you used Alcoholics Anonymous, say, as your power greater than yourself, which I believe it kind of fits the definition here, that if there's a bunch of people getting together, talking about a common ailment that they have, and they're pretty close to being all in agreement with a way to solve this problem, at least in a way that's equitable, attainable, sustainable, uh, then that's, if that consensus is there, these people have found some kind of solution, and it has some power because it can correct a wrong. It's got power in that correction and agreement of the people, and it seems to be working, whatever that is for you. At least it's helping the addict and the alcoholic to live soberly, serenely, calmly, peaceably, without needing to be sedated or influenced by alcohol or whatever kind of drug. They can take life full in the face, just right on, sober, straight up, that kind of thing. No chaser. So step 3, you made a decision. You're in agreement that you're powerless over whatever it is. Alcohol in my case for sure. Step 2, came to believe. I started to understand that there could possibly be something that I'm presently unaware of that could restore me to sanity. I'd never been to treatment at one point in my life, and it's like treatment could have helped me, but I was unaware of that. I didn't know it existed. I came to believe that maybe it could. Okay, so then it's like, well, now at least there's something that could restore me to sanity, maybe. I haven't tried it yet, so I'll have to try it and see. Because it got to that point of desperation in the addiction, that something had to be done, and I was ready to have something done, drastic, like going to treatment. Okay, I'm running out of battery juice here. I've been talking 17 minutes. This thing will shut off on me, I think, at 18 minutes. So, identifying fear and letting go of it will be tomorrow's reading, July 7th. I'll just quit here. So, keep up the good work of staying sober, thinking about getting sober, looking into ways to become sober. Whatever it is you're doing, other than actively drinking and wrecking your life any further, is good. Baby steps. Just work your way at that goal of becoming sober and correcting step 1. Not being powerless over alcohol or drugs or sex or gambling or smoking or whatever, cursing, swearing, profanity, pornography, etc. Anyways. And then recognizing that there's a power greater than yourself that could restore you to sanity, and then make a decision to get that power, get that advice, follow it, obey it, and use it, and apply it in your life. So, wow. Thank you for stopping by here. I'll get back with you later. Goodbye.